Well, here we are everyone for 200 days inside Tiny Farm, and it is the craziest video I've ever done yet. Of course, if you haven't seen the previous 100 days, pause the video now and go watch that first. If you're all caught up, let's begin. Before we start, I would just like to say that these videos take ages to put together, so a like and subscribe would mean a great deal to me. The entirety of 200 days was streamed live on the channel, so make sure you head over there and watch the unedited chaos. But without wasting any more time, let's grab your popcorn and enjoy the video. And here we are back on Winter 17, or day 101. It's been a while since I played, so the first few days back are always a bit chaotic, as I tried to remember what I was doing and where I was. I met up with the wizard and handed him a void essence for his birthday, which bumped him straight up to 6 hearts. In relation to my goals for the next 200 days, it's perfection. Even though that's a while away, that's our ultimate goal. I have read so many of your comments on ideas to maximise the space here on Tiny Farm, and I'll try to implement as many as possible. The first task of the day is to remove this terrible old tree farm. Someone had suggested that I use the quarry space to construct a ginormous tree farm, filled with tappers and mushroom logs, so without wasting any time today, that's what I planned to do. Of course, in the previous 100 days, I had planned to place my kegs here, but I had another plan for them. So the rest of the day was spent laying out the perfect tree farm to maximise oak resin and also the mushroom logs. Although I received a message around 5 PM that the night market was open, which I had completely forgotten about, so I rushed down there right away. I took the submarine straight down to the bottom of the ocean to fish up the spookfish, midnight squid, and the blobfish whilst I was down here. I could then return to the quarry to lay out even more trees, and this did take the entire day, and I passed out to wrap up the first day back on Tiny Farm. On day 102, we can collect a fresh batch of jades from our crystallariums and prepare a batch of tree fertilizer to help our trees grow even faster inside the quarry. We can also add my first few mushroom logs, however, I don't think I could ever have the materials to completely fill this thing. After fertilizing everything we could, we head back to begin the next viewer suggestion, filling the road tunnel with kegs. Since nobody ever walks down here, this can work great as a place to fill with kegs. I was then to Robin's to do some more moving around of the buildings, and whilst we're here, I'll mention it, but unfortunately, due to this being a very old mod, we are unable to move the house, since it leaves these immovable objects behind, which is a super annoying fact, but will mean we have to be more creative on how we place things here on Tiny Farm. At the same time, we also need to find the space for 4 obelisks, a golden clock, and so much more. So yeah, this is gonna be tough. I ended up with this layout for now, but don't worry, this will change significantly over the course of the 200 days. To fill up the rest of the day, I spent it decorating the new farm layout with some fences and grass starters ready for my animals to come out in the spring season. It did take the entire day, but I was fairly pleased with the result at the end. Strangely overnight, a witch appeared and used some strange magic on my coop. This will mean that I will now have some void chickens. For the raccoon, I needed a smoked perch, so I went straight down to the river to catch myself one. Before I did that though, I unlocked the first mastery of the series after catching a pike. For the first mastery, I chose to unlock the mining mastery to give me the heavy furnace recipe alongside some other useful mining related buffs. Back home, I made a row of heavy furnaces and began to smelt a lot of different ores. I still had to complete a special order from Linus today to collect 20 pieces of trash, which did take some time to do on floor 100 in the normal mines, and whilst I was here, I managed to catch myself a lava eel. Once I had all 20 pieces, I disposed all of the trash in the garbage can behind the railroad. Linus had sent me the crafting recipe for the fibre seeds after completing a special order yesterday, which I decided to make a large batch of to plant on the farm. What was great is they can be grown regardless of the season and don't need to be watered after the first time. Of course, here on Tiny Farm, we don't have a lot of space to do this, but since the animals won't come out until the spring season, we have plenty room to grow some in the meantime. I then went to the museum to donate one more artifact. Of course, I need to fully complete the museum if I plan on reaching perfection anytime soon. Back in the desert, I could trade in some rubies and diamonds to the desert trader for some more spicy eels and triple shot espressos. And then whilst I was here, I decided to head to the oasis and spend all of my gold on some starfruit seeds, which I could then take to the island farm to plant. Since I don't have any battery packs to make any more iridium sprinklers, I would have to use the normal ones for now, until I could get either the solar panels or some lightning rods during the summer storms. It didn't take too long to lay out, and I do think it looks pretty ugly right now. But don't worry, by the end of the 200 days, we will have this entire farm filled with ancient fruit, worth thousands and thousands of gold. I also chose to plant some more fibre seeds here, since again, they don't need watering after the initial water. On day 105, I headed up to the quarry to see how the tree farm was progressing, and wow, it's going to look great in a few weeks' time. Today, I chose to return to the volcano to collect some more resources, such as more golden walnuts, dragon teeth, and cinder shards. I made sure to bring a lot of bombs with me, which allowed me to collect a large number of journal scraps and also golden walnuts. Inside one of the volcano chests, we did find a dragon tooth club, which is a decent weapon, but its slow speed will make it difficult to use consistently. We also found one more bone to drop off at Professor Snail's field office, which was a bonus. Day 106, I thought we should do another Skull Caverns dive. We have plenty of bombs and staircases, so why not? It turned out to be an incredible run, making it past floor 120 and collecting a load of iridium ore and other useful materials, including 3 prismatic shards. Since it was a new week, I could choose another special order from Pelican Town. I went with Robin's Resource Rush, and went back home to collect a load more iridium bars from my heavy furnaces to sell to Clint in order to afford a trip to the island, as it costs 1000 gold every single time. Obtaining that island obelisk before the 200 days deadline will assist us greatly here. On the island, I harvested some crops and could now show the frog the 3 different crops in order to gain even more golden walnuts. With these ones, I could repair the island resort and unlock the island east, and then also build the island trader for another 10 golden walnuts. I took the time to do some panning at the dig site and also cleared out some more bones and clay, which are both useful materials to keep. To wrap up a productive day, I chose to make a few more crafting recipes, such as the bone mill and the statue of the Dwarf King. Back on the island, I painfully traded 5 dragon teeth for a banana sapling since I hadn't gotten one yet. And since they take 28 days to grow, the sooner we plant one, the better. And spent another day inside the volcano to get more dragon teeth and cinder shards. And by the evening, I collected one more golden walnut from a journal scrap on the island beach. Another tip that people have suggested for me to do is to use garden pots combined with deluxe retaining soil, which will only ever need to be watered once, which could be a good substitute for the lack of growing space on the tiny farm. Of course, day 109 is the Feast of the Winter Star, and this year my secret gift giver was for Sam, whom I gave a pizza to. And Robin was mine, giving me some stone. Thanks, I guess. Day 110, I made sure to head to the blacksmith's to hand Clint a birthday gift before heading to Ginger Island to fish in the dig site, mainly for more golden walnuts and any new bones to donate to Professor Snail. Luckily for me, I managed to get the fossilized spine, which I could drop right off, leaving one more bone until the entire collection was complete. The final event of the day was to head back to the Mastery Cave and unlock one more perk. I chose the Foraging perk, which can allow me to get the Mystic Tree Seed and Treasure Totems, which will help me completing the museum. We went straight over to the tree farm to collect some more mushrooms, and it was nice to see that the entire quarry is now fully grown with trees. I hope to cover the entire trees with tappers at some point in order to get unlimited oak resin and other materials. And at the bottom, I decided to plant some mahogany seeds with some tree fertilizer for a bit of extra hardwood. Since I wanted to complete the museum soon, I headed to Clint to open a load more geodes, and I managed to donate a few more items. Back on Ginger Island, I planted even more mahogany seeds and also harvested a huge batch of fibres, which granted me a few more golden walnuts in the process. I chose to trade in all of my coconuts to the island trader in exchange for some golden coconuts, which have the chance to drop the final bone I needed to complete the field office. And the remainder of the day was spent inside the volcano completing Robin's Resource Rush, which tasked me to complete 1000 pieces of stone in only 1 week. And for the final day of the year, I donated a smoked perch to the raccoon bundle. As for the rest of day 112, it was spent filling the road tunnel with even more kegs and opening some artifact troves and also 7 golden coconuts, which didn't give me the bone I wanted. So that was quite annoying. Back in the desert, I chose to chop down the entire old tree farm since, well, I already have a much more organised and better one than this. It would also free up a load more tappers, which I could add to the trees. To wrap up the year, I was down to the frozen levels of the mines with some monster musk in order to try and slay 500 dust sprites, to obviously get that incredible burglar's ring. But that is how I ended the first year on Tiny Farm. And here we are, day 113 officially marks the start of my second year on Tiny Farm, and my gosh, we have so much to do this year, and so little time and space. Kent is at my door this morning, letting me know he's moving back into the valley, and the first operation this morning was to clear the incredible amounts of debris that had formed overnight. I did send off my pan for an upgrade to iridium, and today I picked up and opened a few more golden mystery boxes. At Pierre's, I bought myself a load of each variety of seed for many reasons: cooking, gifts, and the shipping collection. The weekly special order was a good one, from Caroline, Island Ingredients, which, if we complete before the end of the season, we will be able to get ourselves some solar panels, which would mean unlimited battery packs. For some reason at Robin's, I chose to spend a lot of gold buying a bunch of crafting recipes and also demolishing the fish pond, which you will find out later we will regret doing. But for now, the main reason I did this is I just bought a load of seeds and I have no room to plant them. On Ginger Island we have some debris to clear out and also some fruits to collect. Of course, this season we're going to be prioritising completing the Island Ingredients quest, but slowly expanding our ancient fruit empire, which was how we spent the remainder of the day, turning ancient fruits back into more ancient seeds and then planting them right away, alongside some pineapples as well for the special order. After such a productive first day of the season, on day 114 we get right back to work, which started by collecting only a few bottles of starfruit wine and replacing them with even more starfruit. It wasn't a lot right now, but every bit of gold adds up in the long run. I headed to the mines to access the dwarf shop in order to buy the dwarf safety manual, allowing bombs to not damage me as much, which is always going to be useful. But now, since Kent had moved back into the valley, we could begin the treasure trade for the pirate's locket. I received the gourmand tomato salt from him, and since I couldn't visit Gus until after 12 PM, I chose to spend the day today inside the Skull Caverns, hoping to get more iridium ore and work on reaching a higher level in my masteries. As always, it was a great run, managing to come away with 2 prismatic shards and over 200 pieces of iridium ore. I also didn't forget to trade for some more items at the desert trader before I left for the day. Day 115 starts with taking the minecart up to Clint's to open some more artifact troves, and also sell a bunch of iridium bars to afford another house upgrade at Robin's for 65,000 gold and 100 pieces of hardwood. People have let me know that I can expand the house pretty much as I want, allowing me to have a lot more space, since, well, we don't have a lot of that. We can resume the Pirate's Locket quest by handing Gus the tomato salt and then the rose to Sandy. Back home, we began laying out the new indoor garden, using garden pots and deluxe retaining soil. Of course, by the end of the series, we would love to have a giant indoor garden to compensate for the lack of outdoor growth space. In the meantime though, I planted some rhubarbs and beets, but after watering these once, I won't have to ever again, which is super cool. I was then to George to give him the advanced television remote, then to the wizard, and then finally to Willie to receive the pirate's locket. Although, since his shop was closed for the day, I would have to wait until tomorrow to give Birdie it back. Day 116 starts with making some lightning rods during a rainy day in the hope of some battery packs, even though I didn't know I won't get any in this weather. It's Kent's birthday today, so I gave him some roasted hazelnuts, which are a love gift. If I was going to reach perfection anytime soon, I was going to need to work on friendships, which, as you all know, is very tough, and we just cannot afford to miss any birthdays. Back on the island farm, we collected some pineapples for the Island Ingredients special order, and also a few star fruits, and could finally hand Birdie the pirate's locket back. After checking Mr. Key's walnut room door, I found out that I was only 1 golden walnut away, so I headed to the pirate's cove and dug up 1 more, which now meant I could access his special walnut room. The walnut room offers some really tough quests that reward you with key gems. For the first one, I chose Skull Cavern Invasion, which tasked me to reach floor 100 of the Skull Caverns, but it was invaded by dangerous monsters. For the first time, I could view the perfection tracker to see I was at 23%. Yeah. Still a long way away, but if we keep up the pace, we can get really close before the end of the 200 days, I know it. Back on the island farm, I now had enough walnuts to repair the island warp totem, which wouldn't be too useful, as if I haven't mentioned it yet, the warp totem on the farm is actually broken, and every time I warp back home, it warps me out of bounds. Which is why I really want to try and get the return scepter as soon as possible, as it returns you to your house doorstep, not the warp totem. Although its 2 million gold price tag is very scary. To wrap up the day, I spent some time trying to catch the legend, which is always tough, but I managed to get it with some ease, unlike this video where I managed to get it in only 3 days. Day 117 starts with harvesting some parsnips and also the beginning of the shipping collection. I have at least 70% of these items all stored away in my chests, so I took some time today to ship some of them this morning, of course requiring 100% shipping collection to achieve perfection. Talking of perfection, I made up a load more crafting recipes I haven't done yet today, as I was feeling a bit down after seeing my measly 23%. On the island farm, I harvested even more starfruit and laid out a couple more iridium sprinklers for my eventual empire. But for now, I filled the fields with seeds I bought a few days ago, which I'll be needing for recipes and shipping collection later down the line. We awaken on day 118 to a much larger house. I took straight off the robins to build myself a new silo, as I couldn't remember where I got rid of the old one to. And to be honest, my animals were gonna need the hay soon. I sent off my watering can for an upgrade to iridium, getting closer and closer to upgrading all of the tools. I also wandered into the abandoned Joja Mart for the first time today to see the missing bundle. This is something I really want to complete as soon as possible to unlock the movie theatre. Since the house was looking quite messy, I chose to do some rearranging today, and by the end of the day, this was how it looked. Of course, this will all be redone before the end of the series, but it works quite well for now. Although, we still don't have a good place for our bed to go, so in the middle of the kitchen works fine for now. The first thing on day 119 was to replace the crystallariums. When I unlock the basement, I'll have to move them, but it's good enough for now. Since it was a Sunday, I could trade a bunch of jades at the desert trader for some staircases, which was pretty good timing, as I still need to complete the Skull Cavern invasion quest from Mr. Key, and these staircases would make things much easier. Whilst I was down here, anytime I saw radioactive ore, I made sure to grab it since it can be used in some important recipes. And I was done with it before the late afternoon and came away with 28 radioactive ore. Back in Mr. Key's walnut room, I chose to buy myself the key to the town alongside the deconstructor for some reason. But the key to the town is super useful, although I constantly forget I actually have it, and I'll see myself waiting outside people's houses all the time. In the evening, I began deconstructing some old crafting recipes alongside smelting a few more ores, and I also made sure to hand Mayor Lewis a gift for his birthday. Day 120 was spent doing yet another Skull Caverns run, and on day 121 we can collect a batch of starfruit wine that had finished brewing overnight, before heading down to the Mastery Cave to unlock one more. This time I decided to choose the Farming Mastery, which will give me the Iridium Scythe, which allows for harvesting of crops. At Clint's I picked up my Iridium watering can and opened a few more golden mystery boxes. Back on the island I collected some more ancient fruits and picked up the extended family quest from Mr. Key. Back on the beach, I caught the son of the crimson fish and decided to leave the rest until tomorrow since it was quite late. Day 122, I decided to do a tiny bit of cooking this morning. I didn't have a lot of cooking recipes right now, but the sooner I can start working on them, the less trouble it will cause us later on. Today was also Vincent's birthday, so I handed him a snail as a love gift. Inside the sewers, we picked the extended family quest back up and caught the radioactive carp, then the glacier fish junior, Mrs. Angler, but I didn't have enough time for the Legend 2 tonight. On the final day of the key quest, I finally caught the Legend 2 this morning, which was surprisingly hard. At Marnie's, I bought the animal catalogue and some hay. The animal catalogue will be extremely useful, as it will allow us to access her shop even when she isn't there, which is obviously great considering she never likes to work. Then I returned to the river to catch some sunfish for the Pelican Town special order, and with the bait maker and sunfish bait, it didn't take that long at all to wrap it up. Back on the island, I had a range of different crops to collect, all of which I plan on hoarding for any future recipes I might have. I did still need around 50 more pineapples to complete the special order, but with the amount of pineapples we were currently growing, we should be able to get there in a few weeks. Once again, I could fill up the kegs in the road tunnel with some starfruit, since I wasn't using my ancient fruits at the moment and instead turning them all back into seeds. We were going to need some way to make gold in the meantime. Day 124, I made up a few more garden pots with deluxe retaining soil to grow even more crops indoors, and decided over the next few days my new goal was to catch all of the fish, which is something I need to do for perfection and for a star drop. One of those fish was the stonefish, which I caught quite quickly on floor 20 of the normal mines. That was the plan until I got distracted by the idea of enchanting my tools and weapons, which led me to the volcano to farm some cinder shards, which I'll be saving for later trips where I'll be experimenting at the forge. Normally I completely forget about enchanting my tools, so in this series we will be diving fully into that. Day 125 was the return of the annual Egg Festival, which, of course, I had to participate in, and ultimately win very easily and collect another prize ticket. The next day we can head back to the quarry to collect a load more oak resin and maple syrup, and also a bunch of mahogany trees I've grown, allowing me to collect an insane amount of hardwood. Back on the farm we could plant some strawberries, which I bought yesterday at the annual Egg Festival, once again for future gifts and cooking recipes. In town I made sure to hand Hayley a golden pumpkin for her birthday, and the remainder of the day was spent cleaning up on the island farm, and accidentally getting stuck out of bound once again because of the warp totem. This is exactly why I wanted that return scepter as soon as possible. Day 127 is the first day of the wonderful Desert Festival, which can mean only one thing: a giant Skull Caverns dive, trying to get as many calico eggs as possible, although I didn't have many bombs. And also, my first calico statue made mummies angry, which was just great luck. Funnily enough, it turned out to be a great dive, although I did have to leave quickly due to the lack of bombs, and also, there were just too many monsters. I did get an egg rating of 25 today, which allowed us to collect Gil's hat, and also a bonus 200 more calico eggs. I could use these to trade in for some useful items at the stores. I did decide to buy an ancient doll for 1 calico egg, since I didn't have it, and also a magic rock candy for 300. For the rest of the eggs, I decided to trade in for some mega bombs. I did still have a little bit of time left today, so I spent it inside the Cindersap forest chopping down all the trees, since I'll be needing the wood soon for all the kegs I'll be building. The next day I awoke with just over 100,000 gold after selling a load of iridium bars last night. And before I went back to the desert, I placed a load more kegs I had made up and filled them all up with starfruit, which I collected from Ginger Island a few days ago. Talking of the island, I had some more ancient fruits ready today, which I could turn into even more ancient fruit seeds, and also a new weekly key quest. It was Danger in the Deep this time, which was definitely one of the harder ones, but it can give you 50 whole key gems. The reason I sold the iridium bars yesterday was to spend most of the gold on bombs. I know this is a really bad value for money here, but since I was going to do at least 2 more Skull Cavern dives over the course of the last 2 days of the Desert Festival, I definitely would be needing more. And it ended up being another great run, making it to floor 100 and an egg rating of 34, much better than yesterday. And turning in my egg rating to Gil, I received another 200 calico eggs and 5 troubleshot espressos. And since none of the shops had anything I wanted, I chose to save the eggs until tomorrow, which began by harvesting a few rhubarbs from my indoor garden, and this time I warped straight to the desert and used my magic rock candy. With the magic rock candy active, it turned out to be the most incredible run I've ever had, and I did have a close call towards the end of the day, which was certainly quite lucky to say the least. But on floor 145, this happened. Yep, I pushed my luck and died with an egg rating of 54, just one rating of 55, which would have given me a free magic rock candy and 500 calico eggs. I wasn't too happy about this, but the show must go on regardless. Since it was the final day of the festival, we were able to trade our eggs in for a magic rock candy anyway, and the rest in for more mega bombs. Day 130 I headed straight to the wizard to hand him some ectoplasm I managed to find yesterday, completing the Pelican Town special order for this week. I also collected another batch of starfruit wine and proceeded to open a load more Omni Geodes, of course hoping to get all the final artifacts I still needed. After spending 3 days inside the Skull Caverns, we were able to unlock one more mastery, this one being the fishing mastery, giving me the advanced fishing pole, which allows for 2 tackles to be applied at once, and once I start trying to catch all the fish, I'll be needing this. We still did have the weekly key quest, Danger in the Deep, to complete, which is what we did today, making it down 10 more floors before the end of the day. Day 131, I chose to make it down 5 more floors before taking some cinder shards up to the forge, hoping to enchant my tools or a weapon. For the first one, I chose the Galaxy Sword, to which I got Vampiric, which gives me a chance at receiving health back from any slain enemy. Since the main problem for enchanting was cinder shards, I chose to farm a bunch more today, and later into the night I made it all the way back up to the forge again. This time I added 3 rubies to my sword, each costing 10 cinder shards apiece, giving it a huge damage buff, which will be super useful in those tricky dangerous mines trips. So this was very much worth our time. Since I was in the mood for more enchanting and combining, I chose to take some monster musk to the normal mines to slay some dust sprites, although I had just realised it was still the dangerous mines, so dust sprites wouldn't be spawning. So instead I chose to head to Clint's to collect some new artifacts and drop them off at the museum, leaving me very close to completing the whole thing. Since the dangerous mines were starting to get in the way of my objectives, I chose to work on it once again, making it to floor 30, with the plan of using loads of staircases for the rest of it tomorrow. Day 133, I could warp to the desert to trade for some more food items, but more importantly, 69 staircases, which made getting to the bottom of the dangerous mines very easy today, and finally collecting my 50 key gems. Whilst down here, I did manage to find my first Infinity Soul, which, if I can find free, can turn one of the Galaxy weapons into one of the Infinity ones. With the key gems, I chose to buy the horse whistle for some reason, until I realised I don't have a horse. Yeah, that was pretty stupid. Day 134, I had some more ancient fruits to collect, which I've been slowly turning into ancient seeds. Although the livestream chat suggested an interesting way I had never attempted before to make gold: Legend 2 fishing. If you have the extended family quest active, you can catch as many Legend 2s as you want, as long as the quest remains active the entire time. So that's what I tried to do today. I did try it, although I ran out of Legend 2 bait very fast, so I would try again tomorrow, and instead spend the entire day inside the volcano, bombing more floors and trying to get more cinder shards to upgrade my gear. We wake up on the island farm on day 135 after passing out last night. It's a bit messy, the farm still, but by the end of the 200 days the island farm will be fully cleared up. Back at the forge, I wanted to enchant my fishing rod with the preserving enchant, which has the chance to not consume bait every casting, which would be perfect for Legend 2 fishing. I tested my luck, although the first enchant I got was Master, which was annoying, but I had just enough for one more, and I got Auto Hook, which was great. I suppose I'd have to forget about Legend 2 fishing this time, and maybe try again when I'm a bit more prepared. After spending another day inside the volcano, I could enchant the fishing rod once more, and I finally got preserving. Day 136, I had more starfruit wine ready today. It wasn't much, but every gold counts. Spring 24 was the day of the annual flower dance, but annoyingly, I didn't have high enough hearts with anyone still this year. I'm not sure why it says it was fun, because it definitely wasn't. The next day I collected some strawberries from the garden pots, and also from the tiny crop fields in the morning. I didn't do a lot today, but in the evening I collected some more oak resin and maple syrup from the tree farm. Looking back on the footage for day 138, I was running around doing a whole load of nothing, until pretty much the late evening, when I took some iridium sprinklers to expand the island farm a bit more. I also noticed that my banana tree had finally produced bananas, which meant I could take one to get some golden coconuts from inside the jungle. Day 139, I gave Pierre some sashimi to wrap up a quest, and chose to spend 100,000 gold to upgrade the house once more, giving me a basement. I also remembered to give Emily an aquamarine for her birthday, although by the looks of things, she was definitely hiding from me. And for the final day of the season, I smelted a few more bits of iridium ore, which I can sell later if I need the gold. Since I was running low on wood, I chose to chop down all the newly grown trees in the cindersap forest, and watched Emily look after a bird which had sadly flown into a window. Whilst I remembered, I chose to fish by the waterfalls to catch the goby, one more fish to the collection of course. But apart from more smelting, that was how I spent the final day of the spring season. Day 141 officially marks the start of my second summer in the Tiny Farm series, and we still have so much to do, so let's not waste any time. As with every start to a new season, we have some debris to clear, and in town, I picked up Pierre's Prime Produce special order. From this point onwards, I will be playing with the to-do list mod on, which will allow me to keep a list of everything I need to be working on, since, as you all know, I can get distracted very quickly, and this mod will ensure we stay right on track. And so I added my first thing to do, which was to build a stable, since I bought the horse whistle a few days ago without a horse. In Mr. Key's walnut room, I picked up 4 precious stones special order, and also picked up a load of magic bait. The reason for this was because I finally wanted to go and catch every single fish in the game to get the Master Angler achievement, alongside the star drop for doing so. Using a sonar bobber, I would be able to see exactly what fish I was supposed to get, and I managed to get the albacore and super cucumber on Ginger Island. And whilst I was here, I also caught the stingray in the Pirate's Cove, and then the midnight carp. We are straight to the desert on day 142 to get the scorpion carp, and to level 60 in the mines to catch the ice pip, and then floor 100 to catch the cave jelly. Another fish I hadn't gotten yet was the mutant carp, so we made sure to grab that one next. Before heading to the river to get even more fish, I did also remember to set up a load of crab pots to get all the respective crab pot fish exclusive to that. In the river we caught another load of new fish, and in the evening I finally ventured down into the cellar and removed all the casks. I had other plans for this area in the house right now, and in all honesty I don't really like the casks that much. And since I really wanted to start combining my rings now, I chose to spend the rest of the night farming dust sprites on the lower levels of the mines with some monster musk, managing to get the burglar's ring. Day 143, we are back to the island farm to do some more planting, and after collecting the burglar's ring last night, I took all of my rings to the volcano, and after making my way through it once again, I combined the hot Java ring and the burglar's ring, and then the napalm ring with the iridium band, giving me the power of 4 rings in only 2 slots. We also had enough cinder shards for a single tool enchant, so I took a risk on the watering can, to which I got the best one, bottomless. This means I will never have to refill it. Before the night changed, I headed to floor 120 to activate the dangerous mines once again, as I wanted to farm as much coffee on the middle floors. And the most insane moment of the entire playthrough happened today. I found a monster floor on floor 66 of the dangerous mines, and that combined with monster musk led to the floor being completely overrun with spiders. Just look how many there were. This floor did make for some satisfying few minutes, as I farmed these floors out for the entire day, each dropping coffee and sometimes rare items like iridium bars and radioactive bars. I managed to come out with a load of cool items, along with 2 more infinity souls to make myself an infinity weapon. I decided this time I'd be using it on the galaxy hammer and turning it into the infinity gavel, and with some help from chat, I spent some gold to change my combat skills overnight to make this hammer super overpowered. I chose to take the scout perk and then the acrobat perk, which meant there is pretty much 0 cooldown on the slamming ability. Yeah, this is going to be super fun to use from now. Day 145 consists of yet another volcano dive to get even more cinder shards, and once I reached the forge, I could start turning the hammer into the infinity gavel. But in total it cost 60 cinder shards, which was super expensive, and would mean that any other enchants I had in mind would have to wait another day. But we did manage to get the infinity gavel we wanted, and it looks super cool. After spending the night on Ginger Island, we do one more volcano trip the next day for even more cinder shards, and enchanted my gavel once and got Crusader, then once more to get Bug Killer, which was pretty painful. But after going back in and finding 2 more cinder shards, we could enchant it for the 3rd time, and we got exactly what we wanted, Artful. This makes the cooldown pretty much instantly now, and as you can see, this is going to be pretty overpowered. To wrap up the day, I crafted a few more recipes I hadn't done just yet, and slowly working our way up to perfection. Day 147 is the annual Green Rain event, and honestly is the luckiest day I have ever, and I will probably ever have on a Stardew Valley playthrough. Before I show you, I made sure to collect my final mastery inside the cave, and spent a lot of time collecting as many fibres and moss as possible. I'll play the clip from the stream so you can just see my real-time reaction to this. So out of pretty much nowhere, we actually get a living hat, which is already pretty insane. But I don't even notice it, and then not even 5 minutes later, on the return back to the farm, I find a second, yes second living hat. And it was safe to say, I didn't even realise how rare this was. Oh wait, I got the living hat. Isn't that meant to be rare? I got 2 of them. Wait, what? Are these meant to be rare? Wait. I say 0.0% double chance from following. Wait. How did I not notice that? Wait, that is actually insane. After a long and lucky day, I chose to give the other living hat to my cat, and we were both cutely matching. Day 148 begins with crafting the Statue of Blessings, which is a quite expensive crafting recipe, but can provide you with some useful buffs for the day. And to be honest, we would need to craft it anyway for perfection. And at Clint's I opened some more golden coconuts, hoping to get the final bone, which I didn't. I then opened a load more golden mystery boxes to get some goodies, and on the return to the farm, I saw Gus having some food troubles. It was nice for him to say he sees me as his good friend, and he handed me a mini jukebox. Back on the island, I seeded even more ancient fruits and checked the perfection tracker once again to see we were up to 39%, which was still quite low, but in terms of fish caught, we were missing exactly one, which was the lobster from the crab pots. This week's key quest was extended family once again, so I thought I'd try my luck at the Legend 2 fishing. For the first day, I came away with 4 Legend 2s, which wasn't that bad at all. Then, day 149, I came away with 11 smoked Legend 2s in total, and that meant by day 150, the halfway stage, and 3 whole days of Legend 2 fishing, I came away with 17 smoked ones in total, and 1 which I'm keeping in a fish tank, which in all honesty isn't bad at all. That meant overnight I had made 539,000 gold, which was pretty insane and worthwhile. Of course, we're at the halfway stage of the video, and I'd just like to say, if you're enjoying it, a like and subscribe will be greatly appreciated, and let's not waste any time, and let's get back to the last 50 days. The next day was the Luau festival, so I put an iridium quality sturgeon into the soup and danced a bit with Emily. Day 152, we took a cave carrot to Marnie's after she requested one, and back on Ginger Island we had our biggest ancient fruit harvest yet. And as you can see, we are slowly making some great progress on the island farm. I decided to allocate the remainder of the day to fishing up 5 of each of the exclusive island fish in order to complete the special order from Pelican Town. And luckily with the bait maker, this was a breeze. Although today, I did do the unthinkable. I spent some gold at the Joja Parrot to find me the remainder of the golden walnuts, as in all honesty, I had no idea where to find the final ones. And also it would bump up my perfection rating, so yeah, kind of worth it. Day 153, we went up to Robin's to build ourselves a stable, since I had bought the horse whistle without a horse. I placed it here for now, and would worry about the placement later. Since I now had all the golden walnuts, I could finally repair the final things on the island. This will then allow me to trade in all of the useless golden walnuts for some key gems. And I decided to treat myself and buy some pressure nozzles in order to expand the island farm. Day 154, I was straight to the desert trader to get 124 staircases, to which I'll be keeping for any future key quests or skull cavern dives. Honestly, it had been long enough with a messy looking island farm, so today I'd had enough. I chose to lay out the final sprinklers and surround paths with them. I also added a nice area with a few preserve jars whilst I had them on hand. At Haley's house, I settled an argument between the sisters and also watched Emily rock out to some music. With the remainder of the day spent moving the chests to a new room inside the house. This time I'm making big stone chests as they look so much better. Late into the evening, I could take the final items to complete the missing bundle, and this would mean I could visit the movie theatre soon, which was super exciting. As expected, overnight the Junimos repaired the abandoned Joja Mart, and Jodie was at my door inviting me for dinner, which was nice. But more importantly, I managed to get a lobster yesterday, and that meant I had caught every single fish in the game, and Willie had sent me a star drop in the mail as a reward. Luckily the stable had finished construction on day 155, and thanks to the chat, I chose to name him Bojack Gons, because why not? For today, I chose to spend it inside the Skull Caverns with a magic rock candy, for plenty of iridium, and also to test out my new Infinity Gavel. And I'd just like to say, it does not disappoint. It became a super lucky run, and I came away with 8 prismatic shards in total, and making it all the way past floor 150. So it was very much worth the effort. On day 156, I could take 4 of those prismatic shards to drop in the box in Mr. Key's walnut room to wrap up the 4 prismatic stones quest, and also saw the extended family quest once again. From the store, I chose to buy Pierre's missing stock list, as it is quite useful allowing him to sell every single seed in the game. I just couldn't resist having another go at Legend 2 fishing. This time I did have a curiosity lure, which boosts the chance of finding rarer fish. It was a successful first day, and I came away with 8 Legend 2s. Day 157 was even better, and I managed to get around 18 before the late afternoon, where I decided to begin smoking and do other things, such as handing out gifts and more ancient seeding on the island farm. Day 158, the bookseller was in town, and I chose to buy every single book I hadn't already read, such as Way of the Wind, Horse the Book, and many more. And since the extended family quest was still active, I chose to complete it for the small extra key gems. I went down to catch the radioactive carp, but on the way I had to break up a fight between the dwarf and Krobus. The rest of the fish didn't cause me too much trouble, and with the key gems I bought some more pressure nozzles for the island farm. In relation to the rest of the day, I spent it measuring out the fields and planting many more ancient seeds. We start right back on Ginger Island on day 159, and it was at this point where I chose to use the UI Info Suite mod. since, well, it's super useful for keeping track of birthdays, which I needed to get a hurry on with at this point. Back home I did some more chest sorting. This time I could remove the entire remnants of the old one and make them all into the new one. At Robin's, I chose to do a bit more moving around with the buildings, and I came to this nice layout, which obviously will be changing very soon, once I start building the 4 obelisks and the golden clock. In the meantime, I chose to build myself a shed to store all of my kegs in, since, well, I actually have the room now, which is definitely a strange thing to be saying, and I don't say it that often on Tiny Farm. I really wanted to make at least one more fish smoker, so I began fishing on floor 100 of the normal mines for another cave jelly, since that's what I was missing. With these extra smokers, it allowed me to smoke up all of the Legend 2s from a few days ago, which meant overnight I made over 500,000 gold once again. Day 160, I chose to work towards the Monster Slayer goals this time, and so with some trusty Monster Musk, I took to the mines to slay as many Void Spirits as possible, managing to complete it in good time. Another Monster Slayer goal I still had to do was mummies, so I took to the Skull Caverns to take that one off. Since you can't normally slay mummies, I would have to use bombs to finish the job. And once again, another successful Monster Slayer goal. Day 161 was more monster slaying, this time to the lower levels of the mines to slay some Duggies, and I even managed to find myself an Ancient Seed. Always seem to find these when I don't need them, but I didn't need to slay that many, and I completed it very quickly. It definitely had been a while since I added some mushroom logs to the tree farm in the quarry, so I added an entire row of them today. The only issue was, they cost so much to make. Courtesy of the UI Info Suite mod, I was reminded that today was the dwarf's birthday, so I made sure to take the minecarts up to him and give him an aquamarine. The weekly key quest this week was Extended Family or Danger in the Deep. Once again I couldn't resist taking Extended Family. After more ancient fruit planting, I caught some ocean fish to complete the special order from Pelican Town, and after checking a special note, I made my way up to the side of the river and claimed another artifact I hadn't yet found. I really wanted to complete the museum as soon as possible, to claim one of the last 2 star drops I needed, one from the museum and the other one's from marriage. Day 163, I picked up my new steel trash can and sent it straight off for an upgrade to gold, whilst also dropping off an ancient doll and receiving a magic rock candy from the museum as a reward, which let me know I was nearly done with donating. I did try my luck with gambling inside the casino, but after some unlucky attempts, I chose to leave it for now. 163 days in and I still hadn't gotten the final bone for Professor Snail's field office, so I decided to chop all of the trees on the island and traded in all of the coconuts to the island trader for 4 more golden coconuts, and would give me 4 more attempts at the bone. I'm straight to Robin's on day 164 in order to upgrade my shed straight to a big one, then down to the beach to hand Willie a birthday gift, upping him all the way to 9 out of 10 hearts. At the quarry, I checked the progress of some mystic trees I had planted a few days ago, and also chopped some trees down, as well, I'm so low on wood all of the time. I was extremely determined to start making some crazy gold now for the return scepter and the obelisks, so I filled up a load more kegs in the road tunnel with pineapples and ancient fruits. The next morning, I'm able to donate some wild plum jelly and some dried coconuts to the raccoon, giving me the raccoon journal, which gives an improved chance at receiving mixed seeds from fibres. At Clint's, I picked up my new gold trash can and sent it straight off for its final upgrade to Iridium. This will mark the final tool upgrade. After a suggestion, I begin construction of a Fairy Rose honey farm. If I'm able to get loads of beehives set up here, this can yield close to 50,000 gold every few days. I'll skip over this boring part. It consisted of me farming iron on the frozen levels of the mines, since I'd ran out once again, and I didn't want to waste any of my hard-earned gold on any. Day 166, I was back to the quarry to clean up the tree farm, and chop a few more trees down, before returning to the island farm to also do some more cleaning. Since I was in a cleaning mood today, back at the base, I cleared out my chests and sold anything I didn't want anymore. 167, my shed had finally finished upgrading, so I started laying out the kegs. Of course, I'll be moving the ones from the road tunnel here at some point. I could finally complete one of my to-do list goals today and pick up my new Iridium trash can. And finally, after so many golden coconuts, I managed to finally get the bone I needed to complete Professor Snail's field office. Dropping the bone off, he rewarded me with the crafting recipe for the ostrich incubator, which meant I could now have my own ostrich on Tiny Farm. I did notice it did take cinder shards to make it, and if you've been watching, we don't have many of them left. Day 168 marks the official end of the summer season, and we still have so much to do in this 200 days. I'm straight to the desert to trade for some more staircases, and then annoyingly make a really expensive crafting recipe for the island warp totem, since I couldn't access the beach today because of the festival. This was of course so I could re-enter the volcano mines and find myself some more cinder shards to make the incubator. I came away with a whopping 45, and I couldn't resist enchanting one weapon. This time I chose to enchant the pickaxe and I got powerful, which is pretty good. And back home we could finally start the incubation process, and in 5 days we should have our very own ostrich join us here on Tiny Farm. In the evening, of course, we had to attend the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies, and like every single Stardew Valley video, let's just sit and enjoy it. Day 169 is the official start of my favourite season, Fall, which always begins with clearing out the debris that had formed overnight, and then to the quarry to use some fairy dust on the mystic trees in order to get myself some mystic syrup, which I'll be needing to make treasure totems, which was how I plan on getting the only few artifacts I had left. I used the first one at the beach, until I realised that the artifacts actually correspond to a specific place in the valley, and some can only appear in certain places, so that was pretty stupid from me. After a couple more in the desert this time, I managed to get one of the ones I was missing, the golden mask. This left only 3 more to find. Unfortunately, out of 5 treasure totems, we only managed to find that one. But that was fine, we still have plenty of time before the end of the 200 days, and at least I know how they work now. We did need one more mineral from a geode, so I took all my geodes to Clint's, and it didn't take us that long to find. It was the start of a new week, which meant a new key quest. And this time it was Key's Hungry Challenge, which tasks us to make it to level 100 in the Skull Caverns. However, I cannot eat or drink anything whilst I'm down there. In all honesty, this isn't too difficult, since I had plenty of staircases to make it a few easy key gems. Day 170, I collected a large batch of ancient fruit wine from the kegs in the road tunnel, and chose to clear them out this time in order to move them to the big shed. Any ones I had spare, I decided to fill the basement with them. With the key gems I earned yesterday, I purchased a heavy tapper recipe from his shop, which I could take to place on top of my mystic trees. And for the rest of day 170, I spent it inside the casino, managing to get 10,000 key coins in order to buy the rare crow. For a crafting recipe, I would need to collect all 8 rare crows. Overnight, I had made nearly 400,000 gold, which on day 171 put our grand total on 1.2 million. Very close to that 2 million needed for the return scepter. In the road tunnel, I collected some more wine and filled up the big shed full of ancient fruits. And I also dropped off 24 eggs to Gus's fridge in order to complete his special order too. I had finally reached enough hearts with Emily to ask her to be my girlfriend, and thankfully, she said yes. In relation to who my roommate might be for this Tiny Farm series, I did actually want Crowbus, as I've never had him as a roommate before. And to be brutally honest, the main reason I was romancing Emily right now was for the magic set she gifts you. And the star drop, of course. Yeah, I know, pretty messed up. I was over to the island farm on day 172 to collect a batch of fairy rose honey and trade for some books at the bookseller. I chose to move my bed back into the kitchen in order to use the attic space to have an indoor fairy rose farm. I thought it was about time today to start focusing on that shipping collection. Anytime I had missed a crop, I made sure to head to Pierre's and buy the exact seeds I needed. Any crops that could be planted in fall, I planted on the tiny farm, and I would plant any more on the island. For the rest of the day was spent shipping even more items for the collection. I did have most of these items, and it was only a few I didn't have. 2 of those items I didn't have was the duck feather and caviar. If I keep petting my ducks, we'll eventually get a duck feather. It was the caviar that was the most worrying, because it requires sturgeon roe that can only be gotten through a sturgeon fish pond, or a tiny chance while fishing if you've read the Jewels of the Sea book. This was how the shipping collection looked on day 173. Still got a while to go, but we'll get there. For the first time since the movie theatre opened, I chose to ask the dwarf to come watch a movie with me. This was for 2 reasons. 1, his friendship was super low, and 2, he actually loved the film that was playing, so he was able to boost his friendship by an entire heart. Full 5th was obviously Elliot's birthday, and I gave him a pomegranate which he loved. I did have a hard time finding some of these villagers, so I decided to close off the island farm. And whilst I was on here, I could plant the seeds I bought yesterday for the shipping collection and covered them in Deluxe Speed Grow. I spent some time the next morning to cook some more cooking recipes, and straight to the island farm to chop a bunch of hardwood trees. And that was it really. Overnight, however, I did hear the hoots of an owl, letting me know that the owl statue event occurred overnight. Day 175, I found the owl statue right in the middle of my paths, since well, it probably didn't have a lot of room else to spawn. I did finally cave in today and decided to clear up the tree farm, since rocks were spawning everywhere and making it impossible to walk. I did have enough to make some treasure totems today, and I managed to find the golden relic, which was yet another artifact I still had left to find. That meant I only had 2 artifacts left until the museum was complete. Day 176 was a new week of course, and for the key quest it was Key's Kindness, or Extended Family. Since I really wanted the key gems, I was forced to choose Key's Kindness, even though I hate this quest. And so I spent the entire day running around the valley giving gifts, and that was the same for day 177 too, giving even more gifts. Anyone who's ever done this will know just how annoying it is. But in the evening, I handed Marnie a pumpkin pie to finally complete it and received 40 key gems. After shipping another large batch of ancient fruit wine overnight, I was up to 1.6 million gold and getting even closer to that 2 million mark. Day 178 was straight back to Ginger Island to harvest a large batch of ancient fruits, and also buy myself some pressure nozzles to finally finish the sprinkler layout on the island farm. And also, I bought a Junimo chest, and this was how the layout looked. I did do the top one higher than it was supposed to be, but that didn't really matter. Once they are close to finishing, I will have to wait for them all to sync up together, so I can have 1 single day per week which I can allocate to ancient fruit collecting and ancient fruit kegging. 179, I bought some more hay from Marnie's, since I'd ran out once again, which is always super annoying. Using 3 more treasure totems, I was able to get 1 more artifact, the rusty cog, leaving only 1 more. With the remaining 2 treasure totems, I didn't get it. I did recently build another room inside the house, which I decided to turn into the animal production room, filled with cheese presses and mayonnaise machines. By the end of the day, this was how it looked. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was fun nonetheless. The bookseller was back on day 180, and I had some books to trade in for some useful items. That was before processing a whole load of animal products. Since I was still running out of wood, I chose to plant a crazy amount of trees in the train station area, looking pretty insane by the end. I could donate the last item to the raccoon bundle and received the raccoon hat today. It was also Abigail's birthday, and since I had an iridium quality pufferfish laying around, it made for a loved gift. Using 1 more treasure totem in town, I didn't manage to get the final artifact, but I did go back home, make 1 more, and this time I managed to finally get it. And donating it to the museum allowed me to complete the second to last star drop, but more importantly, complete the entire museum collection. Since it was a Sunday, I could take the bus to the desert to do the weekly staircase trading, before I harvested a load of crops from the Ginger Island farm that I both needed for recipes and the shipping collection. Day 183 was the start of a new week, and I really needed a plan for the caviar before the end of the 200 days. So instead of going through the pain of building a fish pond, which I still don't have the space for, I decided to risk it and take some magic bait and treasure bobbers to the mountain lake to hopefully get lucky and get some sturgeon roe. Before I did that, I managed to take a rabbit's foot to the strange van by the movie theatre to get the lucky charm, and then spent the entire day at the mountain lake trying to get it. As you can guess, we didn't get lucky enough, and I realised that now I'd have to cave in and build myself a fish pond. However, I couldn't actually do that today, as day 184 was the day of the Stardew Valley Fair. So I made sure to bring a load of rare items to display in the Grange display. I thought my display looks pretty good, and so did Mayor Lewis, and I managed to win first prize. Of course, I used all of my tokens on the quick spins on the wheel. I managed to get enough to buy everything I wanted, the rare crow, prize ticket, and a bunch of hay. In the evening, I collected yet another batch of ancient fruit wine, before seeing the next morning I had finally reached the 2 million gold mark, which meant I could finally buy myself the return scepter. And at Robin's, I spent a crazy amount of time trying to lay out where I wanted everything to go, plus a new fish pond on top of that, plus obelisks, plus a golden clock, and let's just enjoy the struggles. Eventually I came to this layout, which I think works quite well. I can still access the farm cave and the northern area of the map. Also, I hadn't had to destroy any buildings, which is always a plus. But as we still need to build 4 obelisks and a golden clock, I don't think certain buildings will be able to survive much longer. At Mr. Key's walnut room, I picked up Danger in the Deep since it would give me the most key gems. I chose to actually design the farm properly today, with some brick paths. Even though I don't have a lot of good decorations right now, I feel it looked pretty nice in the end. Day 186, I began making more crafting recipes, working towards that 100% perfection. On the island, I gave any ancient fruit plants that didn't have speed grow, and towards the end of the 200 days, I will have to wait until they all sync up, which would definitely dampen my money making, but would make things much easier going into 300 days. If you all want that, of course. The rest of the day was spent using staircases to reach floor 120 and complete Danger in the Deep, collecting 50 more key gems. Day 187, I had had enough of the lack of basic resources, such as stone and iron, so I used a magic rock candy to do another Skull Caverns run. This time more focused on iridium and iron ore, rather than getting down as far as possible, which is quite hypocritical, because I made it all the way down to floor 200, collected 7 prismatic shards, 500 iridium ore, 300 iron ore, rain totems, and so much more, turning out to be an incredible run. Day 188, I chose to spend the key gems buying a few more crafting recipes, which is quite boring to do so, but I would need to buy and craft all of them before the end of the series anyway. I also checked out the perfection tracker to see I was at 58%, which was such an improvement compared to the 28% earlier in the 200 days. The rest of the day was spent inside the kitchen making a bunch more cooking recipes, and in the evening me and Emily decided to spend the night in the secret woods, which was super nice. The bear being the best wingman in the world, of course. 189, I'm waiting outside Robin's to give her a birthday gift, of course completely forgetting that I have the key to the town and I could go into her house whenever I wanted. Back on the island farm, I made up a load more deluxe speed grow to cover the remainder of the ancient fruits, because for some reason a lot of them don't have it. Since I had the casks laying around in the chest, I chose to place them back in the basement and filled them with some gold quality cheese and goat's cheese, both for good energy and also a bit more gold. Day 190 marks the final 10 days of the 200 days on Tiny Farm, and we choose the extended family quest at Mr. Key, since, well, I can't play Junimo Kart to save my life. Although, since I really wanted to get to the Ginger Island obelisk before the end of the 200 days, I decided to do some Legend 2 fishing, as I wasn't sure many more batches of ancient fruit wine would be enough. In the end, it was one of the worst bits of Legend 2 fishing I have probably ever done, coming away with exactly 0 Legend 2s. So that definitely wasn't worth the time. To make myself feel a little bit better, I did have a small batch of ancient fruit wine to ship off, and made another 100,000 gold. I gave my fish pond a diamond this morning to continue towards the sturgeon roe I still needed into caviar. I did try once to catch Legend 2s again, but my luck was just absolutely awful, so I decided to head to the volcano and catch lava eels instead. And working towards that 1 million gold needed for the Ginger Island Warp Obelisk, I spent day 191 and day 192 fishing lava eels. I did make sure to head back in the afternoon on day 192 to give George a birthday gift, and also buy the mermaid's pendant, and asked Emily to marry me. What was great is she said yes, and the wedding will be in a few days. I couldn't get too excited however, as the remainder of the day was spent back at the volcano doing even more lava eel fishing. After selling all of the fish, the next morning I awoke to 720,000 gold, which combined with some other items, should be enough to get myself the island obelisk before the end of the video. I also made sure to do the head count on all of the rare crows I had to find out which ones I was still missing, and finding out I'm only missing 2. One was sold by the dwarf, and the other one was purchased at Spirit's Eve. In the afternoon, I had another batch of ancient fruit wine, which should mean tomorrow I'll be able to afford that obelisk. I was eager the next morning to head straight to the wizard's tower in order to build the obelisk for 1 million gold, 10 iridium bars, 10 bananas, and 10 dragon teeth. For now, I could place it right here, but soon we're going to have to consider destroying a building or 2. I really do need to start working on friendships if we were going to hit perfection in the next 300 days. So I spent time collecting some love gifts today, and then handing them all out. Day 195 was spent giving more gifts, although since I couldn't access the town today because it was Spirit's Eve, it was much tougher to complete. So instead, I spent it working in the kitchen on a lot more cooking. Whilst I was on the island, I chose to unlock the recipe for the banana pudding from the island trailer, so I don't forget. In the evening, I had the shock of the series. Spirit's Eve was tonight, and I needed 5,000 gold to buy the rare crow. And if I don't, I would have to wait until next year. But not just that, it would actually go past the 300 days mark, meaning I would have to go into 400 days just to buy it. So I really had to find a way to make gold before the end of the day today. But then it came to me. The trash can. Since I had an iridium trash can, I could trash items and make gold from it. I never thought the trash can would save my run like this. What was even more shocking is I had also forgot to buy the recipe for the jack-o'-lantern for 2,000 gold, but thankfully I trashed more than I needed to do, so I could afford them both. That was a close one. Thank you, trash can. But after the struggles, I made my way through the maze, collected my prize ticket, and went home happy. Day 196 was the day of mine and Emily's wedding, which was super cool, and I could just see the tears falling out of Clint's eyes. Luckily, after getting the final rare crow yesterday, I got the deluxe scarecrow recipe in the mail, and I handed Harvey a coffee. The rest of the day was spent farming iron on the frozen levels of the mines. Day 197 marks the official start of the second winter on Tiny Farm, and there is only a few days left. But what made it even better was that I saw that the caviar was ready inside the preserve jar for the shipping collection. Winter 1 is Krobus' birthday, so I handed in a Meridium quality horseradish, which upped him to max hearts, ready for a 300 days roommate. The weekly key quest was 4 precious stones, and so in the evening, I prepared my inventory, ready for a big dive into the Skull Caverns tomorrow. Day 198, I did that exact dive into the Skull Caverns, managing to get 3 prismatic shards, and I still needed 1, but right on the strike of 2 AM, I luckily found the final one to complete the key quest. Day 199, I warped right over to the island to drop off the 4 prismatic shards to get a bunch more key gems, which went pretty much instantly on the blue grass recipe. What was even better was my ducks had finally produced a duck feather, which was the last item I needed to complete the shipping collection. To set me up nicely going into 300 days, I chopped all of the trees in the Cindersap forest and then in the quarry. And here we are, day 200. And overnight I did get yet another owl statue, and since I had enough iridium bars, I chose to sell some at Clint's to put me on exactly 500,000 gold. The reason I did this was so I could build a second obelisk, the beach obelisk. But ultimately, this is it, the end of the 200 days on Tiny Farm. Of course, as you'll all know, we haven't yet hit perfection, so that's going to be the goal of 300 days, if you want of course. If you enjoyed, a like and subscribe will be greatly appreciated, as these videos take forever to put together, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. This entire 200 days was streamed live on the channel, so make sure you head over there if you want to see the unedited series. Make sure to check out the new Discord channel we have active and go speak to the people over there, and also check out channel memberships. But until next time, later.